Okay guys, welcome back to another video, and quite an interesting one that I wanted to share with you, something I've been working on now for quite a few weeks actually, probably longer than I think off the top of my head, probably a couple of months really, but I've set up a emulation station through RetroBat, a whole terabyte, and I'm actually working on a 2 terabyte build as well. First off, how I came across this system, I stumbled into Batesera, which is a Linux-based operating system that basically runs this program. So it's all kind of locked in as an operating system. I did start playing with that, found it a bit frustrating jumping back and forth between Linux and Windows. It was struggling to record footage from Linux for some reason. So anyway, I kind of scrapped that and realized that there's an exact duplicate system of Batesera called RetroBat, and what I'm actually going to be talking about is this latest version, 4.0.2 actually, which is a whole emulation station which I'll show you, that covers all these different systems. I've kind of curated it down to the systems that I want. It's actually more than what's on this list that you can have on there, and it's pretty awesome. The guys are French, I believe, so their support is actually really good considering that they're not primarily English. This is the latest changelog. There's also an FAQ here which is really well documented in terms of how you do specific things. There's a Discord that again is very easy to find, and I believe there's even a Facebook page if you want to talk to people on Facebook if you're struggling. Whilst I was setting up some of this stuff, I did struggle a little bit to get some certain things to work, or some little tweaks that I wanted to make, which the guys answered within a few hours, and I was up and running, and it's pretty perfect. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to jump over to the system, and I'm going to sort of whirl you through my build that I've kind of custom hand-picked and curated myself. It's not available to download anywhere else. If you want to contact me about potentially sending me a hard drive, I'm happy to consider some of that stuff as well, or whatever. If you want to contact me about this build, please do so in comments or DMs, or let me know over Discord, and we can have a chat about stuff. So without further ado, let's jump over to the system. Right, here we go guys. So I thought I'd just show you on the actual computer on Windows before I jump into the actual program. Obviously I've got my RetroBat hard drive here, portable hard drive. I am working on a 2 terabyte internal SSD as well, which I one day will probably do a video on because it's coming together quite nicely. But here we go. So it's very simple. The only reason why I'm showing you this detail is just because I can't believe how easy this sort of thing is to make up and tweak. You get a base image when you download your RetroBat, or you can find a base image with nothing on other than these menus pre-populated. So it's pretty much drag and drop for the most part, as long as that pre-image is set up properly. You've got your emulators in here, and some of these I've added. So my base image, for example, didn't have RPC S3, so I've had to go and effectively install this emulator for the PS3. But again, you just set it up on here, and then as long as you've got your ROMs in the correct folder, which is this one here, again, all these files folders are populated in there in your base image. You just drag and drop the ROMs into them, and providing you've done that properly, the system itself will auto-generate, which I'll show you now, and that's literally it. Obviously you've got to have your BIOS in there. They're not populated in most images, so make sure you go and get your BIOS and you set the systems up to see them in that folder. But outside of that, it's pretty much simple. Now you can go into these emulators from here. Obviously, if I wanted to go into my PS3, I could go into it here and do some configuration there. With most of the old systems, certainly the ones from PS2 back, or maybe PlayStation 1 back, you can do most of the customization in RetroBat. It's only the newer ones that you really need to open the emulators, get them set up how you want them, then you can close them and access everything through RetroBat. So without further ado, let's jump in and see what this terabyte system setup looks like, and that's as quickly as it populates there. Obviously, really fast load time to get into this. The first time you do it on a new system, a new build, or when you turn your PC on, it might take a slightly longer, but it's literally a second and you're in. And this is the theme that I've got. This one is based off of Emulation Station console build, but there are many themes that I won't show you them all, but I'll show you roughly where they are and how they look, some of them. And yeah, as I said, this is kind of your folder layout, and it's pretty cool. So favorites here, I've got, you can have as many favorites as you like, obviously, from all the different consoles. Now, what I've done is I've used this as a sort of throw-in part for all my favorite arcade games, because the arcade layout here, you've got main, obviously is over 600 games in there, 672, that nice little pop-up there that comes up. But you've also got your Final Burn Neo with another 100 games, and your Neo Geo's got another 100 as well. So my favourites, I've sort of amalgamated those three pots together and just popped in 46 of my favourite arcade games. And this is kind of what the menu screen looks like for me. You can really customise this to your own, preference. You can have, and I will show you on some of my different systems, the tiles for the actual games on the left hand side of the screen. You can have them looking however you want, if you want the logos, or if you like these like sort of box art style things, and I've got a mixture for different systems. Obviously you've got the videos running on each different game, which I think is pretty awesome. You then got your box art up the top, as I'll sort of whiz through as I'm sort of talking, I think. So you've got your box art over there on the right, which is, again, pretty cool. A 3D box art. You can have that look as many different options to you can have it 2D, you can have the front and backs, you can have just the sides, whatever you want, really. And then you've got your details of what the game actually is. And all of that can be edited. It can all be quickly downloaded. If I come out of my favorites then. So again, main, you've got over 600, Final Burn Neo 109, Neo Geo 103, and again these all look pretty cool. You've actually got the Neo Geo outlay there of the red arcade cabinet, which is so awesome, and these games just run. You just click on them and they run. Again, moving on to the actual consoles, which what more I wanted this built for. We've got Master System there, 300 odd games, and again I've gone for the tiles on the left. There you go, you can see one here, Alex Kidd 3, Curse in Miracle World. I'm not familiar with this game, but it's got a different sort of logo, if you will. That's because it probably couldn't find one of these more standard ones, so it's chucked in one of those. Now, if you go into your menu system and go to advanced options, you then got all the different options in here. As I said, you can sort of customize this quite a lot from the game ratio, what video mode you want it to display in, all the different kind of shader and overlay kind of options that you want, as well as your video output. So you click on that, and then you've got your Japan and your PAL and your North America there, because obviously North American run at 60 frames per second or 60 hertz, and European that would default down to 50. It actually makes quite a big difference for some of these games. So there's a bunch of options here, and you can set this up and tweak this. You can do it on a system level, which is what I've done there, but you can also hold X on X on a PlayStation controller, and you can edit just the one single game there. So if I maybe had a bunch of different emulators that this Master System was running off of, as some other systems do, not really with Master System, you can pick and choose which emulator you want each individual game to run from, as well as all the extra options. So it's a really awesome way to quickly customize your inputs and what you're actually going to play on. Some of them here, as you can see, these are the Brazilian games, which I should probably just delete. So again, this was taken off of a big block of ROMs that I downloaded. So you can also just delete these from from the system, if you don't want to go into your folder structure, but obviously there's no, so what I should probably show you is if you hold X and go into your game options, you can scrape individual tiles. So there you go, you can see it was actually finding this version, but again, it's not the standard stock title logo. So I think if you go to main menu for the whole system and then you go to scrape there, you can scrape from various different websites. Screen Scraper is the best one, but they do struggle with a few strange ROMs. So the Brazilian ones, obviously they don't have anything on there, which is why it wasn't picked up. But you basically can scrape your whole console. You don't have to do it individually as I showed you. And again, you can pick what type of art you want. You can pick what type of box you want, and again the logo you can pick and choose which logo, scraping videos, scraping fan art, you know, all the extra stuff here which I've mentioned, and you can see on the screen. Now with Screen Scraper you need your own account set up, otherwise you're limited on how many you can download per day. The other websites aren't like that, but again they're not as good as Screen Scraper. So that's I'm kind of going through these. I want to just show off some of the other systems. So Mega Drive there, over 1,000 games, and again it's all laid out in this awesome fashion, or the fashion that I find awesome. Now again, even from the sounds, you can have sort of different sounds as you scroll through the games. You can do quicker scrolls as well if you want. You can also search by letter if you prefer to do that as well. But also you could turn off the volume of the videos if you want that off. I kind of like having it on. And again, so Saturn, I haven't got that many games on. I don't really want to. As you get into the more advanced systems and the newer, I guess, systems, obviously the games are bigger, they take up more space. I think Saturn are still fairly low, but I'm just not a big Sega Saturn fan, so I just wanted a couple on there just to test out. And yeah, it all works rather well. Dreamcast, again, 13 games here. I'm not the biggest Dreamcast fan, but I do want to play a few of these. I think some of them are pretty cool, and again, emulation's pretty good with Dreamcast these days, so quite cool to have these on the system. And again, it's just click and play, and it'll jump straight into. Again, you've got all your different options, so you can set this up as you wish, or set the emulator backend up as you wish. NES, 800 odd games. Again, I'm not going to go through all the games. You guys kind of probably, if you're watching this, you know how you know the games. You know the games already. This is more just a showcase of showing the systems off. The system being RetroBat, and again, so SNES, you've got all these awesome videos that you can just sort of spend time just looking through the system. And the thing I quite like, so if it's a game I've never heard of, like this one, Big Sky, I can't actually read that, but I've never heard of this. I'll watch the video. Does it look interesting? No, not really. So I'll move on to another game, Biometal. That looks pretty cool, so then I might play that. So it's quite a good way to find old games that you've never heard of. So we've got the whole library here of N64 games. And again, you have these cool custom theme pictures sort of slide in and pop up, and they move a bit. So I like that rather than the static ones. But I'll show you some other themes shortly. Again, in here, we've mostly got the logos as sort of title cards. A few of them aren't found for some reason, like Banjo-Tooie. And again, emulation here works very well. You can pick. Here it gets a bit jumbled with N64, so some games work better with the RetroArch Core Mupin 64 Plus. Some work better with Parallel. I don't think any work best with Project 64 anymore, but you may want to pick and choose. So for example, Beetle Adventure Racing might work best with one of them, so you can go into the actual advanced game option per game here, as I mentioned before. Now it will default to whatever the system is set up, but you can then pick and choose, actually this one works better under this core. So you know, it's fairly straightforward and fairly easy and robust system to use, which I really like, because if you do it through RetroArch itself, it's a bit can be a bit of a pain to configure. Again, GameCube here, so this is running off of the these sort of standard Dolphin emulator. And again, there's a handful of games here. How many was it? It's 85 games I've sort of pre-selected that I had on my Wii. I think I've got on these on the Wii because obviously they're backwards compatible. But it does work a lot better on PC, and also you get that benefit of being able to upscale. You can also change the resolution in terms of aspect ratio as well. So some of these games default to 4:3. Some of them you can stretch out to 16:9. However, I kind of like playing them the way they were intended rather than getting that sort of stretched image, which is something I should have mentioned before on those old systems. Is obviously they were all designed mostly on the whole as 4:3 aspect ratio. So some of them are pretty cool. I might just jump back here quickly and show you a NES game. So here we go, Battletoads. We're going to boot this up, and what I think is cool is it's got these bezels. You've probably seen them before, but so it looks like, you know, you've got your screen in the middle in 4:3, and then also you've got your Nintendo entertainment system as the bezel, which I think is kind of cool. You can get other art and other custom art done. You can put your own stuff on there if you want, but each emulator or each system has its own predefined look. You can sort of change that, chop and change as you wish. So pretty cool way to look at things there. In fact, if I go into the advanced system options, you've got here decoration, so that will show you then the different ones that are possibly available, and you can obviously download more if you want as well. But there you go. So you're going to have old TVs and all different cool things to look at. So there you go. Now moving back forwards, I jumped way too far. So we've got Wii on here again. This all works well through to the Dolphin emulator. So I don't want to dig into each system on an emulation basis, but you can play a lot of these games just with a gamepad because you can customize the sticks on the gamepad to simulate what a motion controller is kind of doing. Some games don't work so well, other games do. You can obviously use a Wii controller as well if you want, you know, the Wii remote nunchuck thing. But obviously got to set that up through the Dolphin emulator itself first. And again, all of these games have the videos and the custom artwork to go along with it, and again can be played in 16:9 or 4:3 as you wish. And moving on to some more modern systems, Wii U. I've only got 12 games here, but again, and I really love the way this is laid out with the classic Wii gamepad style here. So again, the benefit of playing it through emulation rather than on my console is it all runs perfectly, and you can upscale this to 4K or above if you want. And again, you can boost the frame rates as well. So I think most of these games natively run in 30. You can get all these running at 60 frames per second, and it just feels smoother, and it just looks super sharp. Even a game like Wind Waker here, it does look better in 4K, even with that classic cartoony art style. So pretty awesome here. And Breath of the Wild, my preferred way to play it is through the Wii U, and this emulator really makes the game just even more polished than it already is. We've even got Switch on here. Now these can be hit and miss. All of 8 of these games do work, and I've tested them all. Unfortunately, some of these didn't have the custom art for this system, so I've had to go and find that myself, and some of it looks pretty good. Some of the systems like the PS3 don't look as good because I couldn't find the logos in a uniform manner like on the Switch here. And also the videos, I've had to record these videos mostly for my own playing of the system. So that's something that's easily done though. So you just go to the metadata for each game, and there, as long as you've populated your video and your logo to where you want it, you can click on that and you can find it basically, and that's as straightforward and as simple as it is. It's just a menu option to find it on your Windows computer, or in my case on my portable hard drive. But again, all these games run well. Some of them run better than on a Switch, and in fact all of them are upscalable to 4K rather than the native output, which is again a benefit of playing. Obviously you can't play in handheld mode, which is just a bit of a shame because I quite like playing from bed sometimes. Now moving forward, we're just going to go through these fairly quickly. We've got the PC Engine. Again, this is laid out similar to the other older systems on here. Not going to go through each game, but the PlayStation. So this is running on again. You can run it through RetroArch, but DuckStation is much better in my mind. Although, if you run these games on the standard 4x3, you do get the borders pop up. So I typically do stretch these images out. There is a widescreen hack, which most games work quite well on, so it doesn't look stretched out. But rather than having the black borders, because you can't use bezels on DuckStation, yeah, it's slightly stretched. But a lot of the games work well in widescreen mode with the hack. And these games I all own. These are all from my PlayStation collection, which is why some of them are a bit strange. Like most people probably wouldn't want Chocobo Racing, but I do because it's from my childhood. Same with Cool Borders. I've got all of them on there because I really like them all. Anyway, that's PlayStation. And again, you can customize it, you can upscale and all that. It kind of goes without saying now. And onto PS2, again, a curated list that I've made myself. So this is running through the standard PS2 emulator, and again it's all laid out for you. Some of these they couldn't find the video for, and I had to go and record my own. So for Fight Night, actually it hasn't saved for some reason, so this would be a good test. If we just go through, should be there. Fight Night. Maybe I've done it on my 2TB build rather than this build, which is annoying because I thought I'd done it on both, but obviously not. There's about 3 games then that don't have videos, but I can easily rectify that. And again, it's all fairly standard and stock. Your upscaling, your aspect ratios, all that good stuff, all that emulation stuff, save states. It's all on here. And again, the video output that you can sort of have a sneak peek of what you might play if you select the game is all pretty cool. PS3 then, so this is a bit of a nightmare to set up, more so just because of how the PS3 emulation works. It's nothing to do with RetroBat, but I mentioned before the stock images didn't come through, so some of these look a bit funny. A couple of them were there, like Dead Space 3 and Dante's Inferno. Again, not many videos were there, so I've had to go in and make these videos myself for 99% of these games. And obviously PS3 games are fairly big in size, so there's only a handful on here that I knew worked, because emulation is not perfect yet on this system, although it is very, very special, because this is obviously, you know, these games can run in 4K now and work perfectly, but not every game does. In fact, I made a video on emulation for the PS3. It was my last video, so go and have a look at that if you're interested in where we are in 2021 with PS3 emulation, because I was fairly surprised when I tried it. It never used to be as good as it is now. A lot of developments have happened recently. So anyway, that's the PS3. Some of the videos, like I said, this one was there, which is why it's a bit more blurry, because it's I think 720p, whereas mine I'm recording, although I'm playing in 4K, it's recording in 1080p just for file size. I don't want to fill up the hard drive with just videos, but it looks pretty cool if you ask me. Now Xbox, I just got the one game here because Xbox emulation is pretty poor still, sadly, so I just wanted one on there just to show that it works. And this is how the menus sort of work and lay out. And Halo is the all-time classic for Xbox anyway, so it's nice to be able to play this in 4K. Jaguar now, so we're going through, and as you can see, this is where the box art logos have changed. I quite like this more cartoony look, I suppose, for the logos on some of the systems. And again, I'm not going to go through all the games, but this is where we look. We've got Linux, 93 of those games, Game Boy, 134. Again, you can customize the emulator through this menu system. You don't have to go into the emulator for that. Game Boy Color, 143, and again, this is what the system looks like internally. Pretty cool system. Now, I didn't want all the other systems. I only wanted systems that are actually playing. I'm probably not going to play all of the games on here, obviously, or even test all of the games on here. But they're fairly small, and it's quicker to download a big bunch of them rather than handpick individual titles, especially if you say you wanted 50. It's easier just to download the 176. Nintendo DS, so this is one that I wanted to test out. The emulation on this is okay. It's not perfect because obviously of the touchscreen, but all these games work, and again, you can upscale them, you can change the size of the screens. This was more just I wanted to test the emulation out, so I put a few games on. Same for Nintendo 3DS, although the emulation is better for the touchscreen. You can actually use the touchscreen in a very simple manner with your thumbsticks. Again, some of these games don't have the videos laid out, so that's something I need to do, although I think I've done it on the 2 terabyte build. PSP. Again, this is a great little system here with some really good games. It's often overlooked, but also really cool that you can upscale to sort of like 8K, and these games almost look as good as PS2 games. So there's a handful on here just to mess about with. These are kind of homebrew games, Beats of Rage, so they're kind of all typically fighters, not the best games, but they are kind of fun to some extent. They're arcade style predominantly, and they're kind of like homebrew games. And that's it. So that's all the games. Let me just take you through a couple of the menus. So again, as I said, you can have this really laid out how you want. You can have a screensaver pop up. You can show different folders if you want it in a slightly different structure. You can really customize this massively. You can customize the theme. Each individual theme that you choose has different customization options, whether you want, the moving parts, whether you want it all standard stock, whether you want different sounds to play as you click through things, whether you want the video sound or not, whether you want effects on the videos. You can do a whole amount of things here. But I'll just quickly show you a couple of other themes that we've got set up. So this is the ES theme platform. You've got the ES theme simple here, and this goes to a more standard way of looking at systems. Unfortunately, there's no videos with this theme, so that's why I typically don't like it, but it is kind of a classic style to look at and see what games you've got on the different emulators, and have a little read about them. So it's quite good. Some systems don't work with some of the themes, so if I go into UI settings, if I maybe pick this Omega one, again, it kind of looks pretty cool. I don't think there's any videos on this. Oh no, there are. They're pretty cool actually. And you get the actual console as the background there, which I kind of like as well. And also you can see if you've done a save state. So as you can see there, 3 Ninjas, I tested that out and I did a save state, so it's got a little floppy disk next to it. Typically I don't use save states though. And you can go through different consoles or have different things on them, but some don't work. So this one is GameCube. Unfortunately, you can still pick the games, but you can't. The menu system just doesn't work properly, which is a bit of a shame. Same here for the Wii. So more modern consoles aren't on here. It's only the older things. So unfortunately, you can't really use that one. If I just go back to my standard one here, and then go to updates and downloads, you can download the Bezel project, which gives custom art style on all your bezels for all your different systems, and here you can download a bunch of different themes as well. Again, some of them will work flawlessly, some will only work with different systems, but there is a wide amount to choose from. Maybe you're building it more for arcades and there's more arcade theme ones. Maybe you're just doing consoles, and again, you can have more consoles, or you just want I don't know, some cool visual effects. There's a bunch of different things on here. So that's it on the whole. One other thing that I think is actually really cool is if you load up the screensaver, that will just jump in and load different videos from different systems. You can customize this so the screensaver kicks in after a minute or 10 minutes or 30 minutes, however you want it. And then you can also customize how long do you want each video to last, from 1 second, I think, all the way up to 30 seconds. I think this is 10 seconds here. And another cool thing about this is if you then wanted to, I don't know, just have this on in the background, or you just sort of set it maybe to a low timer so that it clicks through different games in a faster manner. I think 10 seconds, as I said. Here, if you wanted it 5 seconds, you can kind of use this if you're in a mood where you're not sure what you want to play. For example, oh yeah, I play Double Dragon for the NES, so I just hit start now, and that will boot straight into Double Dragon, which is, I think, really cool. So there we have it. This is the system, really. This is RetroBat. As I said, it was a Linux program initially called Batsara that people have taken and put on the Windows platform, and I think it's really awesome. And one day I will show off my 2 terabyte build with more modern systems. Hopefully you enjoyed this and haven't rambled too much, and I will speak to you in the next video.